It's FR, dude. My new uniform.
Wait, oh.
Yeah.
Aw, that's sad.
Okay, all this is the Prairie Field Services Safety Meeting for the week of November 25th, 2019. And before I get started, yes, we will have one on Thursday morning. I'll be here at 1 p.m. on Thursday if you happen to be coming in for that. So I will be here for that. This week is one of our OSHA 1910 required topics, which is process safety management. And where did all this stuff come from? It actually happened out of, where the heck was it? It was a chemical care in Bhopal, India, where over 2,000 people died from a release of a chemical. And businesses have an obligation to protect their employees in this, but they also have to build a plan to make sure if we had an incident, it doesn't grow huge. And basically what is it? It's to avoid that. You build a process to avoid that. And there are 14 elements involved in the process safety management. It's pretty much an elemental approach where we apply things and we get employees' participation in it. And then we process the safety information as to what kind of volatile stuff we're working at. A hazard analysis, just like your JSA. Our operating procedures. We do employee training. We have to train our contractors in this program also. And then pre-startup safety review is if we're starting a new process, we need to review it. Have we mitigated all the potential hazards, problems, issues? We want to talk about mechanical integrity of equipment and this and that and the conditions that it's being used in. If we got hot work permits and stuff going on, non-routine tasks like confined space we got to talk about. And management of change and incident investigation and emergency planning and response in this. So, do we have this program in place at Prairie? Any ideas?
I'd say yes.
Yes, we do have it in place here. Some of the stuff we do does not require it, but we do have it in place. And we try to keep it updated and working proper. The big thing is because of these compliance audits. Not only DOT, but OSHA, all of those good folks that kind of intermingle. And I'll talk about them because those are the spider webs. Part of the stuff you do is DOT governed, part of the stuff you do is OSHA governed. And what are these elements into this stuff? If my thing will go forward. There we go. It's the Federal Regulation 1910.119A. It's the application of a program. And what it talks about is listing toxic and reactive agents in your work area and what happens to these if there's a catastrophic event. And we want to let people know what we have around here. And we want to teach you what to do in case of a situation. You know, like do we want to store 10,000 gallons of motor oil here? Probably not, because then we fall into this realm of different reporting and processes if there's a release. We don't hold the amount of chemicals in this facility or Texas facility or Gillette to warrant this full-blown program, but if we do run it, if we do have issues, OSHA looks at that very kindly. You know, this is a pool chemical process where they had chemicals that were not commercial or reagent grade, so they didn't have to build any kind of safety process. But they had an issue there with chlorine gas and all kinds of issues. And all of us, you're frontline workers, be it in the shop, in the field, even the staff people. We need to make sure you guys know the processes because OSHA knows it, so should we. And how do we involve you in this process? Audits. We look at you. Are you following your processes on location? Part of it is training. When you come in and take classes with Sierra for your annual training, The other part of that is safety meetings. Because some of your training comes right from these, that she's able to sign off in ISNet World that you completed these training. Anybody have a clue what the fine is for missed safety meetings from OSHA? To the individual, not to the company.
$250.
10 grand.
Oh, way off.
So it pays to come to these things.
Look at your days.
Consultation. We can hire consultants to come in and look at our stuff. We can do that in-house with a lot of you guys. You're experts in the field that you do. You had a vast array of knowledge out there, from drilling rigs to welding to you name it. Are our processes safe and sound? We can do a lot of these ourselves. So we involve you in that. But we need you to speak up too. If you see processes that aren't right or unsafe, you need to tell us. We need to look at that process to make sure we can mitigate it, try to remove a hazard, or find a safe way to do it. How many of you have ever grabbed the SDS book there in the shop and see what we have in this building? Because there's every SDS of everything in here, because we're a commercial building. So yes, you will find the Glade air freshener in the bathrooms, SDS, in that SDS book. If you do that, you don't have to do that at home, but we're a commercial business, so we have to have all that stuff in there. And that's another one of those dead trees that OSHA likes to talk about, is nobody ever checks it, goes through it, make sure you're current with everything. We should be looking at that every time we bring in new chemicals and all that. You know, all the diagrams, materials and energy balance, they're talking about lockout, tag out on some of that stuff. We need to follow all those requirements in the 1910 series. But it really encourages you guys to participate in this process. And then OSHA likes to use the term of process hazard analysis. But you guys do it every day, don't you? What's the first thing you do when you get to location you have to fill out?
JSA.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to fill out that JSA. And we need those so there's a paper trail that an auditor or an inspector can follow and find. And we have to have those available to them, because without them, we're not following the proper processes. Because again, we don't want this kind of thing to happen. You sit down, either you just looking at a JSA, looking at your hazards, or 2 or 3 or more of us working a task together. And who should participate in this JSA, this risk analysis program? Any clue? It's anybody and everybody that's involved in the task at hand. They need to participate in that. There's a lot of OSHA suggested formats. A JSA can be just as simple as writing it on a dang notebook paper. But you have to be able to turn that in so we can file it. You know, some of you come from companies that have a tremendous JSA program that takes you longer to fill out than it does to do the task. We don't, in our world, we're not that in depth with it. But if it's something new and different, maybe you should think of some other hazards that could be out there. Because if you have a question on it, you know somebody else probably does. They recommend using software programs and that, but we can build our own off of spreadsheets and everything else that are out there. But don't start a new process until you have all the information is gathered, processed, and we can make sure, excuse me, that we can do it safely. Because we don't want that catastrophic release, you know, a major uncontrolled explosion, fire that can relate to more things, like a runaway truck starts on fire and you're a real gassy well. We could have that catastrophic issue, kind of like the CU Downs right now, right? That is being worked on. Kyle's up on that with Devin. Because we don't want to have to roll in and see that. So some of the operating procedures, we have to build that into our SOPs, that this is how we're going to do business. And we need to do that process in tandem with some of the other stuff going on. And it also needs to mesh with our training program that Sierra's teaching you one way to do it, that's what's going to happen in the field, by the field trainers, in the shop, whatever. And there's some cool things out there that says partner with quality teams such as the ISO 9001. The ISO series are classes you can take online through OSHA and FEMA. They're free of charge. You can take these things, and it helps. There's different levels in the ISO training. As a first responder, all the way up to management of a huge scene for hazmat, you name it. There's all kinds of stuff in there, and it's free training. You just have to register as a student with either OSHA or FEMA, and it's free. We need to document what Sierra does in ISNet world of who you are. You've attended this training. Every week after the safety meeting, she's marking all you guys off in ISNet world that you attend this training, be it online, be it here. You're all getting credit for this with the dates and everything, and your signature on that paper saying, yes, you understood the training that we went through. And there are some certain things that there has to be annual refresher training on, and this is one of them. And we'd much rather do it in the safety meeting than pull you guys off your jobs to come sit and listen to process safety management class. Absolute requirements, there's our documentation. We have to have it documented, not only for DOT, but for OSHA, of every bit of training you went through. I have to be able to provide that to an investigator. And same with the contract employees, all the leasers. We have to be able to provide OSHA inspectors or DOT inspectors their list of training. And there is a comment online that says in the settings of the DC Driver app, there is an option for filling out a JSA after the fact. Yes, and that comes in really good. Say producer shows up and you already had submitted your original JSA. You can submit that second one and make sure they sign off on the JSA. I've done audits and had a few of you guys say, hold on, let me brief you on my JSA and please sign it. And that's absolutely the way you should be doing it. And then our pre-safety startup. Let's double check, triple check, make sure everything's proper before we get into this new task or procedure that we've never done. And mechanical integrity. We want to make sure the equipment is in a condition to be able to do the job properly. From pumps, rotating equipment that create all kinds more hazard. I'm looking at Justin with a hood on back there. If he were around a drive shaft or something, would we want that back there? Probably not want it tucked in. Something that could get grabbed into those. I've seen incidents where people have been sucked into drive lines or impellers or that kind of thing. Any type of hot work, welding, grinding, cutting, there's a whole line of training you got to go through for that. From fire watch to the welder to whatever. But we have the big processes for that. And then when we have to do something that we cannot mitigate it safely to do the task, we have to do a management of change. We have to come up with ways to do it properly and as safe as we possibly can. We have to submit that to management with your process of how you're going to do it, how you're going to mitigate the hazard and complete it safely. And those are a one-time thing normally that for bizarre, strange, off-the-wall type things you're going to do. And some of the things you got to think about is if you're working under pressure, PSI, the mechanical integrity, all of that kind of stuff that we have to make sure we have documented in a training program for you for our process safety management. And it all kind of falls in there on how we retain port reports and everything. And the compliance audits. If we have all this documentation, it makes an audit go so much easier. Because all we do is produce it, they look at it and go, good, everybody's current. But they like what they call low-hanging fruit. They find that one thing that's not right. They dig deeper and deeper and deeper. Because we don't want that kind of stuff to happen there. I want to show you an incident from the other day that was on Highway 50. And we got to start taking better care of our equipment. We have some stuff that gets really damaged by abuse. It's ungodly expensive to fix this stuff. You wouldn't find a leaser treating equipment this way because they have to pay their own bills. Just because we are a company doesn't mean we can afford to do everything all the time. There we go. Come on, maybe you're going to play. There we go. It's a little jumpy, but watch this video and tell me what you think on this. If this was your truck somebody else was driving. apologize for being a little jumpy. Here, but you'll get the gist of it.
Must be listening to some Sinatra or something. He's got all over the road.
Uh-oh. No way.
So on Highway 50, 12:30 in the afternoon.
Son of a
Mrs. Turn.
At 17
Hey, look at that. Nice.
Nice.
Marks.
Yeah, because he's in high gear, and he's barking those tires in high gear, trying to go backwards. The speed, he's actually backing up at 17 miles an hour down the highway.
Nice.
So, and then he stops here and watch this guy. He goes to the fog line, because obviously the trailer's getting all kind of squirrely on him. And then we keep backing up. Let alone the damage to that truck, U-joints, that kind of stuff. I'm sure the owners out there that are watching, I see Gary out here, and if you're driving for Gary Fediplace, I bet you he'd fire you for taking care of his truck like that. Because now you're going to have to look at U-joints and things like that. What kind of damage? What kind of torque was on all that transmission in high gear where he's jumping it so hard? And then if you got sat because somebody did that to your truck, or gosh, we don't have a truck available for you now, you're going to be pretty upset. We got to try to take care of the equipment, guys. Adverse weather, we're still talking about that. Of course, it's on us really, really bad right now. You don't have to preach that to you guys. Just be ready for the slick stuff out there. We're supposed to have, another day of decent tomorrow, and then it's supposed to just dump some more, which it won't warm up enough to melt this off, so it's just going to be more on top. Especially down south, you folks in Cheyenne are going to get it bad. I think they already have like 8+ inches down there, and a lot of stuff was closed all day down there. And the comment online from Gary, and I got to agree, said, we as a person are what makes safety real. We do our part, yes. If we all do our part to do it right, do it safe, not tear up stuff, destroy stuff, I don't care, I'm just going to run and grab my stuff and who cares, we can make it all happen. Operations, I didn't have much time to get with you guys. Philip, or Brent, Richard, from your supervisors meeting?
We're in that chain up with her. Clean up after yourself. Stuff like that. Just basic stuff we should already know. But, there was something I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was.
Kim, anything that you needed to get out there?
I sent out another email this morning, I do believe. Open enrollment's only there until December 9th. So it was an all-inclusive email, so if you already did it, don't worry about it. But if you have not done and completed your open enrollment, again, it has to be done by the 9th. You have to go online and have to walk through it. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, don't know what to do, come see me, call me. I'll be more than happy to help you out.
Sierra?
Sierra will be in Cheyenne on the 4th, all day.
Ladonna?
I don't really have anything other than if you haven't emailed me, texted me, called me for login information for the company store, please do so. There are lots of items that I think you might enjoy. So just give me a shout so I can get you hooked up on it.
And Cash, you're up.
Happy birthday, November, peeps. That's all. And we have cake. Yay.
Yay, cake.
Yay, cake. Sierra has been waiting all month for cake.
Gilby?
Thanks for your participation today. Oh, Gilby.
So we will be switching out that fuel tank next week, getting one more load of fuel tomorrow. Then I want to drain it down. So if you guys end up where it's empty, we'll use Hat 6 and Big D in Midwest until we get the next one going. So it is going to run out of fuel, so you'll know if it happens.
That's all we have for you tonight. And I'll type a couple comments for the need number for open enrollment.
Need number. What are the main number?
Ron, what do you need by number for open enrollment? It's on ADP, where you can sign into ADP and select all your stuff from there.
Which all of the stuff has been emailed to your company emails. So if you don't have your company email set up, you're missing out because you don't have all the information you need.
And Josh linked to the company store. You can get to that either through ADP has a link to the company store, or if you go to prairiecompanies.com, all the way on the bottom of the page, it'll say company store. Click on that and it'll take you to the company store page. Appreciate everybody. Thanks much.